of you have thought about downsizing, how to get by in this ever more expensive, if not crushingly so, society and platform we call on planet Earth? It's almost impossible now. 50 million Americans on food stamps, over 50 million Americans considered poor now. Poor, physically, financially, but not necessarily spiritually poor. There's always a way to do it if you've got to drive. One person said a long time ago, there really are no poor, only those poor in spirit. And there's a lot of truth to that. Our guests this hour, very interesting people. They've done something that many haven't, and I hope you can visit their website and take a look at what they have done. Donna and Kevin, and you'll see the site. It's right there. Welcome to Kevin and Donna's Earth Star. It's a fascinating place, and they are standing by right now, I think. Are you there, folks?
Yeah, Kevin's here. Donna's asleep.
She went to sleep?
Well, she goes to bed with the chicken.
The idea of... Yeah, thank you. Nice to have you on, Kevin. Okay, Earth Star Primal Habitat. The real greatness is in the smallness. It's very true. You don't have to have the biggest. It can be anything, as long as it is manageable, comfortable, and comfort, of course, is also a state of mind. But in your case, you've taken it down. Let's talk about this story, Kevin. The idea of living a, quote, normal life and then doing something really radical to change your entire direction, your paradigm of living, and all the rest. Tell us about how things were before you made the change. What were you doing?
Well, I had a regular 9-to-5 career as an industrial draftsman. I was in the petrochemical business. It was a high-stress job, but it wasn't something I enjoyed doing. I fell into it because it was a way to make money, and I didn't finish college. And I went along with that for several years without complaint. And then what happened was in 1992, everything in my life blew up. And since then, it's funny, I've talked to other people, and they said there was something going on in 1992 that other people's lives got turned upside down.
What happened?
Well, yeah, okay. The only way I know to describe it is if there's 5 major stresses in a person's life, and that would be like divorce, loss of a job, bankruptcy, major illness, and death. Well, I had all of them but death. So I had 4 out of the 5 major stresses.
Yeah, it sounds like you sidestepped that one pretty well. Yeah.
Except that at that point I felt like I'd rather be dead because I had lost a job, I had gone through a breakup of my family, and had this major illness, and 2 significant things happened to me. And ironically, what happened, after divorce, I met with Donna, and we were living together in an apartment, and I had finally gone back to work after going through a surgery and everything, and I was horribly in debt. Well, 2 things happened. The first thing was I got a statement from the Social Security Administration. It was one of these forms that comes in the mail, and I found out years later you have to apply for it, but it just showed up, and it was the statement of lifetime earnings. So I was looking through it, and it lists every year that you'd work, and I had begun working when I was like 16, and I was in my early 30s, and it said that I had earned over $300,000 in my lifetime. And here I was, completely in debt, homeless, living in an apartment, and I was like, a third of $1,000,000.
Where'd that money go?
And so the significant thing that happened after that was I opened up the phone bill, and we had this little apartment, 1 bedroom, and the electric bill was $200.
Wow!
And I was like, this is insane. I mean, I'm not even here all day. How come it costs so much? So that's when I completely lost it. And I just, like, broke down into this collapsed emotional state. And I told Donna, I said, this is it. This is it. I have hit the bottom. I can't live like this anymore. I have to live differently. I have to figure another way to live. And she said, well, what other way is there? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I don't want to pay the electric bill anymore. That's crazy. You don't want to pay the electric bill. But that was the beginning of trying to rethink, how can you live more deliberately? But what I wanted to do was to chronicle everything that we had learned, everything we struggled with, and just put it in the form of articles, just to give it out to the world. It's just so people can kind of replicate the aspects of our simple living, that they want to do.
All right, so how did you go about making it happen? It didn't get delivered by FedEx to your front door.
Okay, so, well, we struggled along, and what we realized is, well, you can't do it without money. A lot of people think, oh, I have no money, so, I'll just go live simple. And it doesn't work like that. The system is such that you have to figure out how to get on the right side of what I call it primary reinforcement. What we're taught to do in our society is to live secondary reinforcement, where you go out and you get a job and you work for somebody and you get the money, which is the secondary reinforcement, to buy the things you need, which is your primary reinforcement. So what I said, well, what I need to do is figure out what is the primary reinforcement that I need. What can I provide for myself? And then those things that I can't provide for myself, then somehow I will, earn the money or trade so that I can get those things. And so it's been a process of figuring out what do I need and what can I provide for myself.
Sure.
That's the short answer.
All right. Very good. So you were in an apartment, and where are you now? And how many years did it take to transition?
Okay, let's see. So 92 was the collapse of it all, and then we went through these false starts for several years, and we had actually ended up out in the Boston mountains of the Ozarks, and I decided, well, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to learn how to live off the land, which, it was a total disaster. I mean, I was out there in a travel trailer with no electricity, no running water. I was out there maybe 6 months. Donna said, I've had enough, I'm going. She went back home, and I stayed out there longer. And I was just determined I was going to figure out how to make this work. But what happened was, I said, well, I can't do this without money. But how much money do I need? So what happened was I went back to work, and this time I got real smart. I started to pay attention to where every penny was going and how the money I was spending, was it giving me my sense of freedom or was it taking away? This is what we always say, is we had no model to follow. And that's what I find is the big problem. And so that was another reason why we wanted to put a website out there, is to create some kind of roadmap. And what we needed was something to emulate. And the way it happened was, the brief story of it was, Donna had been sick for 20 years with chronic fatigue syndrome, and she had gone to every doctor that she...
Oh, yeah. Another one of those horror stories. Yeah.
And nothing worked, and she basically raised her kids on the couch, 20 years. And then when we met, I said, look, there's got to be a way to get well. And we had bought a piece of property, a small acreage, and we pretty much left the woods around us, so we would have a lot of canopy over us of natural shade. So I was going back to Donna being sick. So part of the biogenic lifestyle was a raw food diet, which we did for 6 weeks, and she was completely well after that.
Yeah.
And it was miraculous,
Yeah.
So what we did was we introduced more cooked food, but we did everything as simple as we can. So our diet was the big part of our freedom, and that's the one thing we've learned that people don't want to hear. They don't want to hear. But if you realize how much of your freedom is associated with what you put in your mouth, and
there's
all
so
of
much. Kevin, excuse me, you just said something profound. People resist change in their diet, and I don't know why. We say creatures of habit. All right, maybe. There's also the addictive quality of the toxicity in the food, which is another problem. You become addicted to the taste. What you think is the taste, it's not. It's MSG and many other appetite triggers. But truly, we are what we eat. And if you eat trash and toxins, you're going to get sick. It's just that simple.
I probably drive people crazy because just about every article I write goes back to food is the foundation of your life, and if you want to have freedom, you have to address the food. And the way the globalists and all of these people who think they're in control of this society and this and our world, they can control the food supply and what you put in your mouth and what you desire.
Oh, and they do.
And they've got you. But if you can break out of that, if you can see through it and realize the freedom is in the minimum of need, we don't need that much food. And there's so much more energy that you free up when you reduce the amount of food.
Oh, half the time most people are walking around in a stupor loaded with food and poison they're trying to process, and it's a losing treadmill. You're right.